What if the secret to success wasn't just talent or hard work, but unshakable confidence? Welcome to Grasp Confidence, the podcast where visionary thought leaders, speakers, and entrepreneurs unlock the mindset and strategies for lasting success. I'm your host, LaFon Gooch, CEO, two-time best-selling author, and international TEDx speaker, and I can't wait to help you step into the most powerful version of yourself. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a live episode of Grasp Confidence Podcast. I want to start off with a question. What if the only thing standing between you and powerful leadership is the confidence to claim it? In this episode of Grasp Confidence Podcast, I'm joined by Susan L. Axelrod, widely known as the Confidence Coach. Susan is a true force of empowerment and a champion for everyday leaders. Together, we will explore how confidence and clarity, not status or titles, are what truly define great leadership. This conversation will shift your mindset around what it means to lead. Whether you're a seasoned executive or someone just beginning to find your voice, you'll walk away inspired to step forward, be seen, and lead with purpose. Susan, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate being involved with your output and your important message, Tara. I mean it.
Well, it's not every day you interview another amazing confidence enthusiast, a coach who really helps people. But what's interesting about this, we found each other online and I said, oh my gosh, I've never interviewed another confidence coach before. But I didn't ask you this one question, so I've been saving it until today. Why confidence? Susan, why is confidence your thing? Why is it so important to you?
Tara, I've been confident since I was a teenager. I admit, confess, and eventually realized that I was born into privilege. And I know that because when I have taken time to assess my own life, my gifts, both divine and given, I realized that confidence was part of the way I always presented. I had a long career as a fundraiser in the nonprofit sector. And as I came into my second half, as I call it, turning 50, I started to look ahead to see what else I might be able to do. I had been doing that for 30 years. And many people had told me, you should be a coach. I didn't know anything about it. I spent time for 10 weeks every day on the porch in my home coaching people. And then when I started asking them, what happened? How do you feel as a result of our work? Nearly 100% of them said to me, I feel more confident. And so for me, Tara, your question, why confidence? Why is confidence important to me? My answer is soul. Soul, S-O-U-L. It truly is, Tara. In the end, as you have shared in the most authentic voice, your own story, and I have shared parts of my story as well, authenticity is the key. And, but if you're not living in that voice, then you begin to be uncomfortable underneath the surface, as I call it. That leads to unconfidence and soul disconnect.
Ooh.
I am really, truly about soul connection.
Ooh.
And I do believe I've experienced it myself. I do not speak about anything I don't know personally, Tara. And so the idea of soul confidence rising in you is why confidence is important to me. I don't think we talk about soul enough.
All right. I'm going to stop you right there because we are very aligned, right? So this soul alignment and building confidence, I love that because One of my good friends, his name's Dr. Ardashir Moran. He's a globally recognized expert on depression. He said something that really changed the way I look at depression and this sense of discontent that I feel like so many people have right now. And what he says is that depression is not the opposite of happiness, it's the opposite of fulfillment. And in order to be truly fulfilled, you have to have that soul connection, Susan, because that connection that you have to soul is your confidence, isn't it?
As you may be aware, what asks every guest on she used to ask on her Super Soul Sunday, what is your definition of soul? And instead of asking myself, Tara, well, who am I to answer that question? I asked myself that question because I have voice. And I decided for me, my definition of soul is your place of deepest feeling. It's your place of deepest feeling. And I say it's like deep down in there, like deep down in the spaces where, sometimes you hide from all the things that were perpetrated on you. And you go like this and, you're closed, and then you're in this disconnected space. And that's where I came up with this idea. My 5th book is called In Soul Alignment, to the point that you literally made. When you are in a disconnection from your soul space, soul is a spiritual place. It could be a religious place. I know you're a person of faith. I'm a person of faith as well. And a lot of people talk about spirituality more than religion or religious space today. Either way, soul is the basis because it's your own deepest sense of self and selfness. When you can get connected down there, then you can rise confidently to find what you talk about, your activated space, your strategic vision, and your purpose.
Love that. There's so much to unpack there, right? But one thing I want to emphasize, this whole time we haven't said fake anything about who you are. So I just want to emphasize that because we're coming from a place of authenticity. And I think there's a lot of generic advice out there on how to build confidence, but it's not in the authentic, soul aligned way that we're talking about. This is a place of deep fulfillment. It's life changing. When you apply these things in your life, they will transform your life. And it actually doesn't have to take a long time, right? So, we're talking about stepping into the best version of yourself, being confident. So I just want to know, we're talking about leadership too, right? So when we talk about stepping into the best version of yourself, oftentimes we think of leadership and personal development as two completely separate silos that shall not be combined, but they're the same. In order to be a leader of many, we have to first be a leader of one and learn that self-mastery, don't we? So I would like to talk a little bit about leadership as well and why confidence is essential for leadership.
Yeah, let's talk about leadership. I mean, leadership is everything today. And so why is confidence essential for leadership? One of the things I'm coming to is that as a leader, you have to be prepared to face conflict and confrontation. And perhaps it has always been that way throughout time. And also it is today in our time. I'm going to say this again, Tara. As a leader, you have to be prepared to face conflict and confrontation. And that's not easy. Most of us, don't really want to do that. Most of us shy away from that. And it's hard. It's hard. And I wanted to say, Tara, you've used the word authenticity. And in the green room before we started here, I said to you, Tara, authenticity is not a buzzword. It is the word today.
The word.
It is the word today, so to speak. And it does take being in that authentic self-connection to rise in confidence to lead. It takes that space of saying, yeah, I'm okay with myself and I have something to say. Where does it come from within you to have something to say? It comes from every single step of your life till now. And taking the time using your own GRASP acronym, I want to say it again, really to open up and uncover what's in you, not all the things that you read about from other people. Don't get me wrong, to the point of personal development and self-help, I turned my car into my university decades ago in a long commute of personal development and self-help. It is partly how I became more confident myself to speak out my own voice and say, like, yeah, what I have to say is important for one person to hear. And so I do have a bit of a new angle on leadership that I would like to bring up, if that's okay with you as well.
Yeah, I would love to hear it.
I am developing a thesis, Tara, which I'm delighted to speak with you about from your perspective, and that is following is a form of leadership. So what do I mean by this? It takes confidence also to plant your flag in the ground with your values. I've been following Dr. John Demartini for decades, literally almost 3 decades. Living your values. Mm-hmm. And once you know your values and live your values, soul confidence can rise from there. I'm not sure every single person is designated to be a military leader, a governmental leader, a business leader, a religious leader. But I am certain that everyone can lead in their lives, even if the way you lead is to follow someone else. So you can look around you and see if there's someone else you can join up with. I use the word follow. Maybe I should use the word join, Tara. Mm-hmm. You're like this, you're teaching people to be CEOs. You're the CEO, you're confident. Everybody doesn't get to be the CEO, and we have too many CEOs. It may not, work out. But CEOs need C teams, right? And C teams need management teams, and so on and so forth. So this idea is important today, that following others, joining up with others, takes confidence too. And this is something anyone can do. So let me stop and say, do you get me, or are you not with me?
No, I love it. Well, one of the things that I hear as well as an underpin to all of this is courage, right? You have to have the courage to lead. You have to have the courage to be authentic. You have to have the courage to stand out, stand apart. You have to have the courage to sometimes follow somebody else, right? And again, it's about aligning with your values as well. You have to have the courage to do that. And you not be like everybody else. All of this, what we're talking about, was such a personal journey that I had, right? In entrepreneurship. I didn't, trust me, Susan, the last thing I wanted to do was share my story. I tell people that, right? It's not something I wanted to do. It was uncomfortable. I was a little nervous to do it. You're never sure how people's reaction's going to be. You have 5
You're going to
books.
be judged.
Yeah, you have 5 books. You understand this. I seem to go through this every time I publish a book now, right? A little bit. It's okay to still have that. But my point of it is that you have the courage to do it anyway, and the confidence to do it anyway. It doesn't mean things like self-doubt are never going to come into your mind again. This is not what that's about. It's about to have the courage to do it anyway. Right?
Yes, definitely. So 2 things. Number 1, it takes courage, and courage can lead to collaboration. And we discussed that a little bit also in the green room, that there would be, there's such a need today for collaboration, and that we don't need to compete, but rather collaborate. And the title you gave this talk today, Why Great Leaders Start as Great Followers, what often happens is, with courage to collaborate, not try to lift yourself up as the only, and that creates an unconfident space sometimes. To collaborate, you join together, you commit in truth to, the point. And then from there, you often can get lifted up as a leader. You can often, from becoming a confident follower, connecting, courageously collaborating, then you often can become a leader. This is an absolute path to leadership, Tara.
I love that. Well, I mean, we don't wake up knowing things. We have to follow somebody that's a couple steps ahead of where we are, right? And that doesn't mean that if you follow them, you're less than a leader. If you follow them, you're a sheep. It means that everybody needs a mentor too. And, there's certain things that I say all the time on repeat. This is one of them. We can't see the holes in our own ship. Period. Dot. We cannot. And that's the point and purpose of working with coaches and mentors and guides, right? Because there's certain things that we just cannot see. So all of these things are important, and all of these things are steps in leadership. Steps in leadership. And even if I'm not even necessarily talking about leadership of others yet. I'm just talking about leadership of ourselves, right, Susan?
I mean, leadership of the self is really, truly everything, Tara. I just wrote it down. We don't wake up knowing things. I love that. That's a book title. We don't wake up knowing things. Leadership of the self is everything. But Tara, we need to acknowledge in this conversation, this blatant conversation, that the self is fraught. We're born into a family out of our control. We have every experience of our young lives. And often those experiences are bad and difficult and create difficulties, even in loving circumstances, never mind in difficult circumstances. And we grow more and we grow further and we move on, no matter what, you still age another year, and year by year you go on. And this conversation that we're having live today, we are speaking out directly to people to wake up and hear what we're saying, that, you have your story, I have my story. And in your Grasp podcast, where you teach your method, you speak out your model, you say, there isn't a person, you don't know what people have experienced. You're seeing, the 2D right in front of you, but you don't know what their experience is. Most people have difficulties in their background. And that's why, Tara, it does take confidence to break through. You said something a few minutes ago. It doesn't take long to transform. And I am so about immediate transformation, mindset transformation, building the mindset muscle. You also talked about it in your video or on another podcast. I've been listening to a lot of your podcasts with someone. It's like step by step. It takes work to break through the blocks, barriers, and resistance, to work through what you went through. And that does take self-love and confidence. And sometimes it can support to become a follower first, just like you said, find a mentor, find a leader, become a follower, and find your leader in you, find your leadership voice, find your leadership path. And one more thing, Tara, I just want to say, opportunities abound today to become a leader. I have a friend who gardens, and I'm like, if you garden, be a garden leader, go garden, get your hands dirty, talk about gardening, show the impact of gardening, show your, share your produce, cut your flowers, give them away. You can be a gardening leader. I'm not saying you have to be the Army general. Do you know what I mean by this?
Yes. Well, this is one of my favorite concepts. This is actually in a subsection of my next book that's coming out. And I talk about, someone asked me this once. They said, how can I get to this kind of role? And I said, it starts right now. Right now. And it starts with you showing up as a leader in every aspect of your life. At work, at home, at the grocery store. It doesn't matter where you are, right? In traffic. Start showing up as a leader. What would a leader do in this situation? What would a billion-dollar mindset? What would somebody like that do? Would they get mad at somebody in traffic? Come on. They have their energy's too precious, right? It's about switching it to being a, reactive to proactive and showing up as a leader in every aspect of your life. And that means leaving every situation better than you found it and putting a tremendous amount of purpose into the things that you do, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Every aspect of life.
And so, yes, to all of that. And I want to say, if the word purpose with a capital P makes you, our viewers and listeners, nervous, like, what's my true north purpose? What's my true purpose? Oh, believe me, I know that story. I've got the book, Tim Kelly's book on my shelf. Then you could consider the word purposefulness. Tara, I have a quote from me. I want to share it with you because of what you just said, about leaving every situation, better than you found it and starting now. And, you talked about courage. And one of the things that came to me is what I call a transformation tip. Really from the beginning of my journey, like I started this more than a decade ago, 12 years ago. And that is this: it may have all been said before, but it hasn't all been heard. So what came up for me as you were just speaking, you talked about a subpoint in your next book, is confidence coach to confidence coach. Here, we want to really open the idea for people to understand your experiences are of value. And if you are willing to share, you told us, Tara, that you didn't think that you would be sharing your personal story, right? If you're willing to go in and go deep as we are here, then when you come back up from your soul space, you can rise in confidence and speak your message. Tara, you and I are doing the same thing. I'm literally laughing, putting on my makeup, listening to your podcast, being like, is she me? Not that we have the same exact experiences in the background, but the messaging, should we be competing with each other? Is she my competitor? I'm like, no, you go, like there's more than enough room, more than enough space. And to the point of great followers can become great leaders. This is how it happens. Yeah. It may have all been said before, but it hasn't all been heard. How do we know that? Start with the Bible. It's still being read. Go to Napoleon Hill, still being read, right? And so on and so forth. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, 100%. Well, there is a quote about that. It says something like, everything that has ever been said, or everything that needs to be said has ever been said, but the problem is no one was listening.
No, exactly. And yes, today in this conversation, there's new people listening. Hello, people listening.
But this is a great example of collaboration over competition. The funny thing is, I don't know why this happens, Susan. Maybe you can fill me in. But people, one of the number one questions I get asked is about abundance. How do you track abundance into your life, right? And it's a very simple formula. It starts with, you have to be confident, right? In order to be successful. It's very simple. So, but it's interesting how people come to me and they see the confidence, they hear me talking about confidence, but then they associate that with abundance. And we know this is true. So this can help build all aspects of your life. It helps build your business. It helps build your personal development. It helps build your self-leadership, right? All of these things. And you start to become a person of abundance. And one of those principles and reasons that's true is because this conversation is proof of that. We're seeing each other as collaborators, not competitors, even though we're in a similar enough space and arena.
Totally, exactly.
There's no such thing as competition when you're aligned with your purpose, when you're in your lane speaking speaking the truth as perceived by you, right? Whatever that means, through your own story and experiences in life. But this is proof that this works.
Absolutely. And together we're stronger, Tara. We don't have the same voice. You have a Christian orientation. I have a Jewish orientation. That's amazing. You're speaking to people. I'm speaking to people. And yet we both have a completely non-religious output as well, which has nothing to do with, the basis of religion per se. And, some of the messaging, there's literally, it's like there's room for everyone. There's more than enough. I have a friend who knits. She's a leader. If she watches this, she's going to know who she is. It's like she's become a leader as a knitter, like knitting, there's so many ways that you can step up. My friend, my dearest, friend here, she has a weekly dinner for, family and friends, and especially young people who are coming in, who need a safe space to, just hang. And I tell her every day, you're such a leader in this way. So, you brought up abundance. And you said abundance starts with confidence. And I want to carry that forward to invite people to confidently define, what does abundance mean to you? Does it mean money? If it does, let's talk about that. Does it mean love? Does it mean, what is it? Health? Spiritual. My dear friend Cornelia Stephanie talks about spiritual wealth. Okay, we need money, Tara. I mean, obviously, I know you talk about this a lot. I am all about my business system. The intuitive business system for women in business for themselves is designed to help women grow their financial accounts. Don't get me wrong. We need money to live life and to also give and support others and to support our world. But in terms of exactly what you said about abundance, starting with confidence, I want to say to confidently define what abundance means to you. And then in your own model of the S, I believe is for sight, 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 the S in grasp is for sight. And you even said, see yourself. And then you also talk about one of my favorite topics, which is visualizing, envisioning, visualization. And that's where we are regarding abundance and feeling confidently abundant. Visualize what that really means to you by defining what you need.
I love that. So true. So, in your expert opinion, why do people keep asking me about abundance? It's really interesting. It's just funny. And I love it. Don't get me wrong, but it's funny. I think we're hopping on a call about podcasting or something, and people ask me about abundance in somewhere in the conversation, or TEDx. They come to ask me about TEDx or.
One of the reasons is what we call the mirror.
Ooh,
MIRROR. You reflect abundance out, and people see it in you, and they want that. And this conversation today, like, we're at the base, we're live here, Tara. This is my world. This is me every day. I told you last night, I'll go into a public space and I will live stream because I want people to be activated in their personal everyday experience, which is partly okay. It does take confidence to do that. And I'm 62. I'm turning 63 this year. By the time you turn 60, you're like, the hell with it. And, it's so important to come back, to the very basis. This is why I talk about soul alignment. But you somehow broke through. It was all on your podcast. Your stories are out there. It's in your books. You broke through.
Yeah.
And that takes courage and confidence. And you also broke through the confidence barrier to speak it out, share publicly in your own authentic voice from your actual experiences. And I think that's why I think you reflect abundance. And I think people want some of that, Tara. And if they want that, just let them follow you because you're giving it to them every day, right?
Every day, all the time. My best content is free. I believe in delivering immense amount of value to people.
Yeah,
And
we are totally, completely in sync with that. I'd be an exact same.
Absolutely. I'm working on a course right now to go along with my next book. It's going to be very close to free. People say, "Why are you doing this?" Well, you know what? I want to actually change people's lives. I want to be a catalyst for change and really help people develop and step into their confidence. And, if I can do that on a mass scale, it always comes back. And again, it's not having a mindset of scarcity, because I do believe scarcity is an illusion. And I will just say that because people are saying, "What do you mean scarcity is not real? What do you mean this is an illusion?" This is why. I will take this example. Susan, do you remember back in the late 80s, early 90s when they had such a thing as a pet rock? Do you remember the pet rock?
Of course I remember the pet rock.
Did you have the pet rock? Raise your hand if you had the pet rock.
I did. My children were in the 90s. They were just being born.
Oh, so okay, they didn't have pet rocks, but you knew somebody that had a pet rock. That's my point. Someone was selling a rock in a box, and they made in that time over $1 million a year. It was a creative idea. Maybe it was the perfect time. Maybe not. I think it would still work. It still works today. People still buy, they don't call them pet rocks, but they're rocks you can paint for kids, right?
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
The point of all of this story is there's no competition. The only limitation is your mindset and what you believe is possible. If somebody, built a company off of pet rocks and slime, which is a multi-billion-dollar enterprise, right? Then we surely can all make money, and there is enough for all if we're aligned in our purpose and step into it with confidence, right?
Yes. And I really, I totally love these examples, pet rocks and slime. And I want to give my own example of this breakthrough. I started leading when I was 14, without a doubt. As soon as I got into high school, I started leading, and you can ask all the people on my Facebook feed who follow me who are still in high school, who I knew from high school. And so from years after that, I developed my career, which I loved, such a blessing. But eventually, as I came into the beginning of my maturity, which is about 40, I started professional speaking in my career very young, because I started it at age 22, but I began to have this yearning, Tara, to speak, to be a speaker, to be like, I had attended a few motivational speakers, and I had this yearning. Was it ego? Yeah. Was it arrogance? Possibly. Eventually later, as I matured as a woman, I learned it was intuition rising. A woman's intuition is a real thing. I just had this yearning to be heard. People would tell me, "You should do a TED Talk. You should do a TED Talk," which of course I love your TED Talk, which I've listened to. And people would always tell me, "Oh, you should do a TED Talk." And somehow I just never did, and it never happened. Well, some very many years ago now, more than 10 years ago, because of social media, free access, I just made a decision, Tara, to speak. And that, because it was coming again, going back in our conversation from that authentic voice of which we have discussed, I just made a decision to speak myself. Now, don't get me wrong. My brother and my husband are like, "You talk too much." No, I'm serious. And I had to break through the judgment of that, to say to myself, well, I have this purposefulness of sharing my experiences, knowing I lived through experiences for a reason. God only knew what was going to be my future experience that was eventually to come. But honestly, I made a decision, again, speaking directly to what you teach, Tara. I'm not bullshitting here. Like, we're live. I'm really saying this, calling this out, speaking directly to what you teach. I made a choice and a decision to see myself differently.
Yes.
And that I just decided to speak, and I started using social media to speak. And that's when I started my lives, and I started speaking, and I have never stopped speaking. That's why I said to you, let's go live. Let's just speak. Let's speak truth. Let's speak real. We'll keep it real and really show up for people to help them to understand what we're talking about is real. We've both lived it. We've both experienced it. And neither of our lives have been perfect.
That's right. They don't have to be perfect. And, I think it's all about your mindset, right? Because you can look back in your past experiences and find all the wrong, or you can choose to find the good in it. And it doesn't mean anyone's life is perfect. It doesn't mean you have to be born with a certain level of confidence or be born into the right zip code. What it means is that you use those experiences for a level of purpose, and you slowly and progressively step into that person that you see yourself becoming. Maybe it's that future vision. You have a big goal. See it. See it. You have to see it in order to become it. And it's not fake it till you make it. It's a see it until you really become it. See until you embody it, until you become that person, right? Embody the characteristics, embody, get really granular with this and practice that visualization, because when we visualize ourselves as the greatest version of who we can become, and then you pair that with gratitude, then you are bringing it into existence. Period. That's it, right? Susan, I love this conversation so much. Thank you so much for being a guest on the show today. Where can everybody look you up online so that they can connect with you and follow you?
Yeah, thank you. My website is called whatwillyourlegacybe.com. I started my work, my career at age 22 in the field of fundraising in the nonprofit sector. Early in my career, I was lucky and blessed to get into working with individual donors and get into charitable gift planning. And it was in 2004 that I created, in those days, a credit card, business card that said one question: "What will your legacy be?" ? And I had them, formatted, and I used to hand them out to people. I didn't even have a website then. I didn't have anything. And so whatwillyourlegacybe.com, I encourage you and invite you to consider this. Also, I have a YouTube channel also. It's The Confidence Zone with Susan Axelrod. And Tara, I just want to say I really appreciate being invited to your show. I'm grateful to you. I don't take that for granted. I feel humbled to have this conversation today, sharing truth with people and really motivating, uplifting, and inspiring people to break through and find the little tiny kernel of confidence to a transformed way of being. I really do know that there's many obstacles for many people to overcome, Tara, things that you and I know nothing about. And so we acknowledge that, we know that, and we both work as coaches for that reason. And Tara, to tell you the truth, I give it all away just like you do every day. My deepest desire now is to continue to do the personal, private, individual coaching work that I do to really help people transform and rise up in leadership of all sorts today. And that's it, baby. That's what we need.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for being a guest today, Susan. And thank you so much for everyone who tuned into this episode of Grasp Confidence Podcast. Guys, don't forget to follow on social media. I'm available pretty much everywhere but TikTok online. And visit my website as well, LaFonGooch.com. Don't forget to book me for your next event or conference as a speaker and thought leader so that I can help enhance your team and get them to the next level confidence. We will see you on the next episode. Take care.